Grab your Bibles. Good morning, everybody. It is great to be with you all this morning. It is going to be a wonderful day. I want to welcome our guests. We are so glad that you guys are here. I want to welcome those who are joining us online. We're grateful that you are here as well. I don't know if you know this, but we have an amazing group of ladies here, and a bunch of them have been working over in our community building in order to get things ready for Vacation Bible School. And if you're not helping with Vacation Bible School and would like to, I'm sure we can put people to work, maybe, yeah? All right, but make sure that you get with Claudine or Yvonne. They're kind of the ones leading the charge and organizing things, so you'll be able to show up and be put to work immediately. If you have not signed your kids up, that is no reason not to come. Do come out. We will have a great time. But they have transformed that space into Ireland. So it is going to be a wonderful time. Starts at 9 a.m. All the you workers probably around 8:30 need to be there and getting things ready and putting things in place. It's going to be a great week. If you're not going to come and you're not able to help, pray for endurance for us. It's going to be a long week. It's going to be a long week. All right. I want to kind of give us a sense as we head into this week of Vacation Bible School. We're going to be looking at Psalm 23. So it seems only fitting that as we prepare to have our kids learn Psalm 23, that we spend some time this morning looking at and learning Psalm 23 as well. But I also want to introduce you to some of the characters that are going to help our kids to learn the 23rd Psalm. This is Maya. The sheep is going to be helping us learn Psalm 23. Then we have Guide, Border Collie. He's going to help us learn Psalm 23. We have Shadow, the raven, who's going to be assisting as well. We have Pisky. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that one right. It's a bug of some sort. I don't know Ireland. I'm going to learn along with the kids on that one. And then we have Shirley, who is going to be helping us as well. So those are some of the fun characters that are going to be helping our kids learn about the 23rd Psalm. But since we just had the 23rd Psalm read for us, I want to do a little bit of background work before we read it once again. Shepherding in Israel was embedded within the culture. It was a long-standing issue within the culture. And part of that is because of people like David. King David was the one who wrote the 23rd Psalm. And it is believed that he wrote the 23rd Psalm as he is on the run from his son, Absalom, who is trying to take over the kingdom. So as David is waiting for this battle to finish, which is either going to result in his son dying, or at least being captured, or himself permanently removed as king and on the run, if not himself being killed. As he waits in suspense for the result of this conflict, David thinks back to those years he spent, those formative years as a shepherd, looking out over his father's sheep. A shepherd would live alongside the sheep, taking care of the sheep, looking after the sheep. It was hard, tedious work, but it was vitally important. It was, like I said, embedded within their culture because Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and his 12 sons were all shepherds. In fact, that was why they were welcomed into Egypt, to take care of the king's flocks. And while this was a long-standing tradition in the family of shepherd after shepherd after shepherd, and because of the sheep were so important for milk and for wool and for hide and for meat, There's also the importance of the sacrificial system, sheep being integral to their worship and their devotion to God. All of those things made sheep vitally important and valuable to the community. And yet, shepherding was not the noble profession. It was hard work. The Egyptians looked down on shepherds. They despised the shepherds. And even in Israel's later history, they didn't necessarily uphold the shepherd as being a noble profession. Often it was done by children or older men who would shepherd the flock. But shepherding being so integrated into the culture, being such an important task, even if it was not always appreciated, you have a number of people who were shepherds at one point in their life, like Moses, who became leaders. And the term sheep, or the flock, became a representation of the people of Israel. And the shepherd became an image of the leader of the people. And as you look at sheep, they're not known for being very bright. But that's really a misnomer. It's not that sheep aren't bright, it's that they trust one another. They naturally commune together. They naturally come together and they trust one another. They have to, because they are their own defense, their only defense. If some predator comes in, they don't have anything but each other to keep themselves safe. So as goes the shepherd, so goes the sheep. A good shepherd will protect the sheep, look after the sheep, care for the sheep, and the flock will thrive. A bad shepherd will destroy the flock. And that became an image of the leadership of Israel. It becomes so integrated that the prophet Ezekiel will use it as an image. And he'll talk about how the leaders of Israel, the shepherds of Israel, are devouring the flock. Could you imagine going out to the sheep, out to the pasture, and seeing the shepherds sitting there butchering just to put it on the fire, and then throwing out what they don't need, and just wasting the meat, just devouring it for their own benefit? I mean, that's the imagery that the prophet draws upon to communicate the folly of the leaders of Israel at the time. So when we look at shepherding, we see an image that is carried over into how a leader is supposed to take care of his people, how the church is supposed to be looked after and guided. So the imagery here is super, super important. David remembers those days, the long days, leading the sheep. Sheep, because they are communal, because they come together, can be led. A shepherd would lead his sheep by walking in front of them, calling them. The sheep know the voice of their shepherd. They trust their shepherd to lead them to what they need. David knows this because he indeed has done that. Sheep are never driven. They're always led. Sheep are not driven. They're always led. There's a lesson in there for leadership, isn't there? To lead the sheep, to lead the flock, not to drive it. Fathers, not to embitter, but to lead by example. So David reflects back on this, all this history, all this examples, and he sees God as his shepherd. Here he is on the run, all this conflict, all this uncertainty, all this unknowing, and David says, the Lord, he's my shepherd. God's the one in control. God's the one who's leading me. God's the one who's looking after me. God's the one providing for me. I will not be in want. And what transpires in this wonderful psalm that is said by congregations, that is recited at funerals, that is reflected upon in difficult situations, is wondrous. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. He maketh me lie down in green pastures. One of the things I like to say is he doesn't ask, he maketh. And some of us, he has madeth us to lie down, to rest, right? Some of us don't rest very well, but a shepherd looks after his sheep and makes sure that the sheep needs the rest that he needs. David, being a warrior, naturally goes to the conflict, but not this time. David is target number one. He cannot join in this conflict. He is made to lie down, and he is led to green pasture. He is led to green pasture. The green pasture is one of those interesting things. Sheep need food, as we all do. And we all need sustenance. We need the things that we need to survive and to thrive. And we all try to plan out we have our retirement plans, we have our plans for how we're going to pay our bills, we have, what we're going to have for dinner tonight. All those plans come out. And when we think of the green pastures, we think of those green fields around here when the water is actually falling from the sky and everything's green and luxurious. We like to think of it as belly deep alfalfa, right? The abundance of God. But this was spoken by David in the land of Israel, not the land of Ireland. These are the green pastures of Israel. What happens in the arid high country, the mountainous terrain, where the farmers can't grow a crop, is the moisture off of the Mediterranean will come up and it will blow up against the rocks. And those rocks will catch that moisture and that will drip down. And where it falls, it waters a little tuft of grass. Sometimes more than others, but a small tuft of grass. And the shepherd will lead his sheep to the green pastures, and they will graze an entire hillside. As the sheep walk along, there's a tuft of grass here and a tuft of grass there. They keep walking, there's a tuft of grass here and a tuft of grass there. And by the time they're done, that entire hillside has been grazed, and the sheep have what they need. Jesus will say it this: give us this day our daily bread. Not our weekly bread, not our monthly bread, our daily bread. And it's the image of the green pastures. Tuft of grass here, tuft of grass there. We all want the abundance of Ireland. We all want belly-deep alfalfa. But it takes faith and trust in the shepherd who will lead us to the green pastures to make sure there's a tuft of grass here and a tuft of grass there, that our daily bread is given. Not overabundance, not a guarantee for tomorrow, enough for right now. That's a hard way to live. But for a lot of human history, and even today in this country, that is the way it is. Tuft of grass here and a tuft of grass there. He leads me to green pastures. But it's not just food that we need. He also leads us beside still waters to restore our souls. You don't lead sheep to rapids. Sheep aren't very good swimmers. But sheep, like all creatures, need water. So you follow your shepherd, and he leads you to those cool, refreshing streams so that you can be rehydrated from the heat of the desert sun. The last couple of weeks, we understand that hot sun, don't we? I don't know what has happened in the upper atmosphere, but goodness, it has been hot, right? But you come to that cool, refreshing stream, and it revives you. I wonder if David thought of the time when his men fought their way to water to bring him back a cup, because he made a passing comment, "Oh, I wish I had a drink from that cistern." David couldn't even bring himself to drink the water. He poured it out as a drink offering. If I was one of those mighty men, I probably would have decked my Lord there and just been like, "I sacrifice to bring you that cup of water. You better enjoy it and you better drink it." But the fact that we all need that. David, thinking of those times when God provided him not only his daily bread, but also that daily water that he needed, that sustenance to revive his soul, even in the midst of difficult times. That he leads us, he guides us in the path that we ought to go. He leads us to where we ought to go in righteousness for his own name's sake. Because God's the one looking after us, because he is our good shepherd. That even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. You ever walked through a valley? Maybe you're in one of those valleys now. Maybe you've been through one of those valleys in the past. I remember a time when I got to go elk hunting up in Colorado. And I had decided to hike up this canyon. And I waited, and right before dusk, a cow and her calf came out. I had a tag for a bull. And I watched them for about 10 seconds before they scampered off into the brush again. And I picked up my gear, and it got dark. And here I am, I'm armed, right? I'm hunting, I'm armed. But my mind goes crazy with what's beyond my headlamp. Walking alone back to the four-wheeler. I couldn't walk fast enough. It got dark in that valley. There was no moonlight there. I mean, it was just pitch black. I was terrified I was about to walk into a bear or something out of a legend. I was so grateful when I got back to the four-wheeler and I could get back to camp and get back to my friends where I would be safe. But it's unnerving to walk through dark valleys. To not know what's around the next corner, to not know if there is danger lurking in the shadows, something that means to do you harm. Something that currently is weighing on you. Maybe you know something is lurking, and you don't know how you're going to deal with it. David did not know the outcome of that battle as he began to reflect upon his years of leading sheep And that evening, maybe when he started back towards the pen too late, as you pass through these darker places, the sheep will gather closer to and around the shepherd. They'll put their arms out, their hands out, touching the sheep, reassuring them that they're safe. Because they don't know what's around the next bend. You don't know where it's going to come from. Safety and security is in the shepherd. Because your rod and your staff, they comfort me. The rod and the staff are interesting. The rod being a club, basically. The staff being a support structure, a long, thin staff for the shepherd to lean on. The shepherd might occasionally use the staff to correct a sheep, get it back closer to or away from something that is about to harm it. But by and large, these are not meant to correct the sheep. They're not used against the sheep. The staff is used for the shepherd to support himself as he looks after the flock. And the rod is used to defend the sheep, to neutralize threats. God's protection, His divine justice, bringing us comfort. There was just a little bit of comfort for me in that dark valley, knowing that I had a weapon on me, that I might get off a shot and bring some attention to myself if a bear came out of the woods, right? But there's comfort knowing that our God is looking after us, that our God is protecting us and is going to bring about justice. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. We all need sustenance. We all need food. As David was reflecting upon this, the battle going on, I wonder if he was humbled by what he was receiving because he was being treated as king, despite being on the run. I wonder if he sat down knowing his men were all fighting this battle, knowing that food was being placed before him. I don't know that he was hungry that day. You anoint me with oil, and my cup overflows. When a shepherd is bringing the sheep in for the night, they look over the sheep. They make sure that they're not wounded or harmed or in need of medical attention. They make sure that they're provided with the last drink of water before they bed down for the night. And I wonder if David was in awe of the fact that here he was, fighting for his right to rule, this conflict in his kingdom, and here he was, food placed before him, basic hygiene and medical supplies, being able to look after his basic needs. And I wonder if he was just humbled by that. I wonder if he thought back to those evenings as he looked over the flock, tending the wounded, binding up the injured, looking after the young. David knows that his God is looking after him, providing for him, caring for him. And he comes to this point, after all this reflecting, that surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. From a place of uncertainty, of worry, of anxiety, to a place of comfort and assurance. It's a beautiful psalm because that's the point of poetry. To experience it, to walk through it, to feel the different emotions, to go from that place of anxiety and uncertainty to that place of comfort is the point. I wonder if David thought about the fact that he was preparing to build the temple. That he was looking forward to the day when his son would get to build that permanent dwelling. Maybe he was thinking about those different times when he was in the tabernacle, worshiping before the Lord. Another psalm will talk about the birds that dwell near the temple, that live in the temple. And that thought of being able to just dwell with God. David reflecting back on those nights where he dwelled with his flock. Maybe there was that one sheep that always got into trouble but liked to cuddle up at night. I don't know. But those reflections, those memories that must have come, and that comfort that came in knowing that God was in charge, that God would take care of him. That comfort did not change what happened on the battlefield. It didn't change the uncertainty of what was coming. It wouldn't change the heartbreak of losing a son. However, there was comfort in knowing that his God was taking care of him. That his God was with him and near him and would provide for him. So this morning, as we finish our reflection upon Psalm 23, I hope that we, like David, will see the Lord as our shepherd. I hope that we, like David, will trust him to lead us on the right path, that he will provide for us what is needed, that we will be able to move from the uncertainty of the moment to the comfort and the serenity that comes from knowing that our God is in control of all things. I look forward to this week as our kids learn of our God as our shepherd. I look forward to having this week behind us because I know how exhausting it's going to be as we walk through this dark valley. For everybody who's been part of Vacation Bible School, you know. But we serve a God who looks after us, who provides for us, and who will see us through. Doesn't change the heartbreak. Doesn't change the uncertainty. It doesn't guarantee a positive outcome every time. But we do serve a God who will see us through.